Everybody, we're going to get started here in about 5 minutes. Give people a chance to log on here. Thank you for joining. Hey, everybody, just a reminder, we're going to start here in a couple minutes. One more minute, we're going to begin. Even though with Lombardi behind me, you'd think we'd be on Lombardi time, which is 5 minutes early. But most people are like me and probably showing up a little late. Seems like Abel just said he also somebody shows up a little late. Okay, 1:35, so we're gonna kick it off. We've got a lot to cover with some pretty advanced stuff as it relates to ChatGPT. So first, I want to welcome everybody. This is our third webinar this year related to our webinar series around AI. We've got a number of panelists on here for you, Courtney Kerr, who you can see, Mary Claire, as well as Sebastian. Feel free to reach out to any of our panelists or myself with questions. They feed me the information as it comes as well. So for example, if you'd like to be a volunteer in terms of maybe offering up your website, your company name, as we go through prompts here in a bit. Feel free to put that in the chat. And then we'll get to a Q&A session at the end where you can throw out your questions, and the panel will help make sure we get all or most of those answered. And then lastly, I want to thank everybody again for joining, and we're going to go ahead and dig in. So let's get started. Quick reminder that we will do our last and final webinar event of the year next Thursday, December 14th. We're actually going to cover a topic that we have not yet covered around image generation. So the number one leader today in that market is Midjourney. Some of you may have heard of Midjourney, but essentially we're going to walk through how to use prompts to create unbelievable images that will allow you to create images for things like your website, marketing emails, ads, etc. An area of AI that is starting to get closer and closer to merging with some of the ChatGPT and text prompting that we have, but this will be a really fun one for you guys to learn, and I think it'll blow some people away in terms of what you can do with respect to AI imaging. All right, so the agenda is going to be very similar, but a little different than the last webinar. I just want to recap kind of what we covered last time, so that way if there's anybody on today's call that was not able to attend the last webinar, you could go back and maybe take a look at it based on what we covered. Quick reminder of how to get set up on ChatGPT and how you can follow along in today's webinar. And then we're going to spend the majority of today discovering and discussing recent ChatGPT updates. So believe it or not, after the last webinar in November, almost a couple days after that, OpenAI had their Dev Day, where they announced a whole bunch of new capability that launched and changed the entire visual layout of ChatGPT. So we'll walk through all of that today. And we're going to build prompts in a live setting. So these will be prompts around a new feature that we're going to cover here in a second. All right, so the agenda, we covered that. Recap, we got all that going, good to go. Today's purpose, I want to have everybody leaving knowing how to use ChatGPT, and most importantly, the newest functionality that comes with it. A quick background, we are Upper Hand. We've also launched something called Upper Hand AI. I'll be your host today. I get the opportunity to speak with hundreds, if not thousands, of business owners on a yearly basis, and certainly quite a few folks over the last 5 to 10 years have been doing this. I've been studying data science for several years now, and I also get to work with CEOs in my local community to share conversations like this around topics like AI and other things to keep a pulse on what's important in the business community. As it relates to data in general, it's complex. Hopefully these webinars are seen as a way to make data simple and help you guys understand AI. If you're ever interested in learning more about our team, we welcome you to visit us at upperhand.ai. All right, so recap of last month, we walked through and highlighted a bunch of different updates from the last 10 months, really to give away the key message that this isn't going away and it's only going to get faster. ChatGPT and OpenAI, the company that owns ChatGPT, they're rolling out updates on a weekly basis as they are in competition with Google and other AI companies in the market. So you can expect this stuff to continue to ramp up. We reviewed how to sign up and get started with ChatGPT on the mobile app or in browser. We do have something called the ChatGPT Playbook, which we can send out to everybody after this call, which basically has instructions and sort of steps on how to go ahead and get creating your account with ChatGPT as well. We then learned how to write prompts. Really in the last two webinars, the webinar in May, we covered kind of just generic prompts. And then in the webinar in November, we tried to cover a little bit more advanced prompts. Reminder that a prompt is really very similar to how we all had to learn how to use Google search, when it first came out, early 2000s, right? So the difference is what you put into that search or prompt in this case is just different than a Google search. So just like we had to learn how to use Google, we're going to have to learn how to use ChatGPT and all these prompt sort of opportunities within the AI world. But there's three key things that I always like to define. First is you're going to want to tell ChatGPT or any prompt platform, what role they should be with the prompt you're about to give it, set a task, and then give it clear instructions. And we're going to cover a much more advanced version of this with the new functionality that's rolled out. How to follow along, there are a couple options. Option one is you can use the mobile app. So if you already have an account, you're already paying for ChatGPT 4, because you'll have to be on ChatGPT 4 to do exactly what we're going to do today. You can get the mobile app and log in and enter these prompts as we go. Although some of the prompts are going to be pretty long, so you may have to do testing and practice after the fact. You can also follow along in the browser, or my favorite option is you can watch, take notes, have somebody in the office get you some popcorn, and just sort of enjoy a fun AI conversation. A quick reminder of what we're going to be talking about in terms of which plan we're on when I'm using ChatGPT today, and what plans they offer. So on the left-hand side, you have ChatGPT 3.5. This is the free version that comes with any account that's created. They are regularly updating and adding to this side of ChatGPT. For example, I believe some of the stuff I'm going to show today in the Plus account will likely become available to all ChatGPT users over the course of the next several weeks or months. The Plus version is the version we're going to be using today, which is really GPT-4. They call it ChatGPT Plus now. But with this version, you can create and chat with images. You can actually use voice to text to do AI. And then what we're going to cover today is we're going to do something called build custom GPTs. So all of that comes with the Plus plan. Now, the Plus plan does have a wait list today. Several days after our last webinar, OpenAI announced that they were pausing new signups, but they've started to add people, enroll them in. So I highly recommend, if you are not signed up for the paid plan, to do it immediately on the wait list. Because once you're a paying member, you'll never get waitlisted again. So highly recommend going on and doing that today. Okay, so what's new in ChatGPT? So first off, I kind of mentioned this a second ago, but with the introduction of ChatGPT-4's DALL-E capability, you can chat with images. So what does that mean? And this is taken from ChatGPT's website. Let's say there's something that's broken, like a bike, or something in your office you can't fix, or your facility. You can take a picture, draw around it, send it into ChatGPT, and ask it, what do I do to fix this? And ChatGPT can help you fix it. You can create new images. Maybe you need some new imagery for your website, email marketing campaign, a new logo, some of that stuff we're going to do today. And you can also chat with voice. So with the mobile app, you can actually use a voice to text option in order to be able to use and leverage AI for folks that like to do it that way. But the big change that they announced on Developer Day that changed everything that we just covered in November and really just improved it is the introduction of something called GPTs. So I know that sounds pretty crazy. You've got GPTs in ChatGPT, but basically you can now create your own custom versions of ChatGPT inside the app. So what that means and what we're going to walk through is essentially, we'll go back one more step, kind of two different ways to create it. You can create it by chatting with ChatGPT, or you can create it by just configuring some of the settings. So more of I'd say probably an advanced way of creating a GPT, and we're going to create one both ways today. We'll actually create several in the configuring side of it. But you'll notice that you have, you name it, you give it a description, but then you provide these instructions. It's going to tell this custom GPT what you want it to do. And then you can create some conversation starters, which we'll explain what that is here in a second. But you can also upload files. So why that would be valuable? So an example could be, and one we're going to show today, I created something called the Up Marketing GPT here at Upper Hand for internal use that allows our team to quickly ask ChatGPT, hey, what's the messaging, the right messaging for this webinar when we market it to our customers, to prospects, et cetera. And it can read through messaging documents that we've created and give us an answer. And it will perfectly match what we've already done on the side of the marketing team, which is create those messaging guides, and just saves a lot of time combing through and coming up with the right way to say and do certain things. So that's an example of how you would use those knowledge files. And again, we're going to go through that here in a second. So what exactly is in the instructions piece? And this isn't the only way to write instructions, but I do think it's a great sort of starting point, because it goes back to that original idea of how you create your prompt, where you give it a role, you set your tasks, and you provide instructions, right? With the original sort of prompting that we're used to from our prior webinars. So with the GPT in instructions, there are four sort of pieces here. We're going to define and use this sort of case type to tell the machine and the language learning model, hey, what personality do you want me to take on? Some people can get really creative with this, so you can make it a funny GPT. You can do all kinds of things, some of which we won't go into today. Then we have this follow these steps in order. So this is where you're going to tell the GPT, follow which steps you want to go in as a part of what you're going to try to process. And we're going to, again, show some examples. What's the response style? For example, maybe you want the communications to be professional, which mostly always will. Maybe you don't want all the jargon that it provides. So you could say, I want direct responses only, leave out, all the added description that sometimes ChatGPT can give us to save some time. And then knowledge base is going to be, you want to tell it to specifically reference the documents that you've included in the knowledge section on the previous page where you upload some certain files, okay? And again, we're going to walk through all this in a live setting. Okay, so always have to do this because we're going to dive into some real stuff. Obviously, I don't know what it's going to produce when we do stuff. So if there's anything that upset somebody, apologies in advance. But for the most part, it does a pretty good job. Keep in mind, it's the internet, so anything that goes on the internet should be assumed that at some point, whether it's now or in the long-term future, could become available. So just be cautious with what you share. Obviously, would never share, specific information on certain, data as it relates to first names or any way you could identify particular people. But just, again, kind of a word of caution. It's still the internet. All right, so let's dive in and do some live prompting, and we'll get started. So let me exit out of this presentation for you guys. And we're going to jump over to ChatGPT. And get my notes up. Okay. All right, so let's first walk through creating just what is the GPT again. So you'll notice on the left-hand side, prior to this webinar, when we last spoke, all you had was sort of these prompts, right, that you could create. So you can still do that in the ChatGPT bar on the left. You sort of click this new conversation. You can tell it's just like before, right? But all of this here up top is new. Okay, so when you log in, and again, we're in ChatGPT 4. When you go to Explore, you'll start to see all of this here. So OpenAI puts some example GPTs for you to look at and play with. But up here, these are all ones I've created, and some of the ones we're going to create today. So let's pretend like we would start off creating our own new GPT, okay? So just like that screen that we saw before, on the left-hand side, this is where you're basically, it's kind of like where you're configuring and building the GPT. The right-hand side is where you can preview the GPT as you build it. So the first way we're going to create it is one of the easiest ways. And again, with this particular way, you're not going to get as descriptive, but it's a great way to start. So let's just kind of create our own by talking to ChatGPT, and we're going to say, I'd like to create, and actually, do we have any volunteers, any websites you want to use on this before I start?
We do. We have one in the Q&A for Cal Diving.
All right, so we'll use you to start. All right, so I'd like to create a GPT that can answer any question about Cal swim or Cal diving. So let's hit that in there and let's see what it tells us. Now, I will tell you, the GPTs, they're slower when you're building them, and they're also a little bit slower when you chat with them, and I'll explain why once we get into the configure section, but it depends on some of the settings we put. But right now, we've given this request, and it's starting to configure the GPT in somewhat of an automated fashion. All right, so it's going to tell us what's happened. It's going to always give it a name for you when you do it this way. It says, hey, what do you think about the name Dive Guide? Now, why is this important? Let's open up ChatGPT up here. Get a couple windows going. The name's important because if you start to build a bunch of GPTs, you're going to want to know which one you're dealing with, right? So you can quickly select it. So in this case, it's saying, hey, Dive Guide. Well, let's change it to Cal Diving and give it a profile image. Because again, it'll also be easier to identify if we've got different images here. So it's going to generate that image for you. We'll give it a second, and while that's happening, let's go ahead and open up Cal Diving so everybody can have a look. All right, so we're looking at a California-based diving academy. It's like a lot of great information on here. Registration, classes, teams. So it's got all this information. And basically what we're wanting to do here is try to get this GPT to create a customized ChatGPT that will allow us to ask any question we want about Cal diving. Why would that be helpful? Well, you got staff people at the front desk, you got instructors, anybody within the business ideally would be able to ask this any question it has about Cal diving and get an answer. So let's see what it says. It gave us a robot, which is maybe not the greatest icon, but let's see here. Should it be strictly informative? So again, it's kind of asking you questions to be able to help you answer. Going back to this here for you, to help you answer these things, right? So it's kind of asking you questions so it can fill in, what should be the response style be? What should my personality be, etc. All right, so we're up to date. Any topics? Okay, so I'm not going to ask it to give any topics because we're going to go back to configure in a second. All right, so you've got it on the right-hand side. Let's save it. They give you three options when you save. Maybe publish only for yourself. Maybe you want to create a GPT that is helpful for your writing style, right? So when you write an email, or anything, you could create a GPT that say Kevin, Kevin's GPT. If you only allow people with a link, obviously makes sense. Anybody has the link can use it. But you can also make it public because in the next few months, they're going to be launching a GPT store where you're not only going to be able to create your own GPTs, but you'll be able to use anybody else's GPTs and likely pay for them, very similar to the iOS App Store. For this sake, I'm just going to confirm and I'll share because we may share these links after this webinar. All right, so it created it and then it popped us out into this, to the actual GPT. Now notice it gives us some pre-canned questions to ask, which is kind of cool. So let's just ask it, share some history about Cal diving. I know Eric is the one who gave us this, sort of offered himself up as a volunteer. So he'll have to tell us if we're getting accurate information or not, but it appears to be so. I mean, has a rich history. I bet if we go to the About page, take a look here, it's taking all this information, anything on the website, and it's producing this awesome sort of write-up. Okay. Now let's go back. So how do you edit this? Okay, so you can edit it by clicking the drop down here, going to edit. You can also edit it by going directly to your, again, this explore button, going to your GPT and editing this way. And you'll notice that it sort of gave us 4 pre-canned sort of questions, which is helpful. So if somebody's new to using ChatGPT or in the organization and they just want to sort of test it, they could use it. It's also good to just sort of put some quick hit links that maybe are questions that are more common. So for example, we're going to customize those. And I'm going to walk through a brand new way to create this GPT here. But for this example, I just want to show you how to edit these conversation starters because it might be helpful. So let's just get rid of these. And maybe a common question would be, tell me about the upcoming events at Cal diving. Okay. What kind of training is offered at Cal diving? Okay, so as I do this, you can see these, as I input those conversation starters, they're popping up over here on the right-hand side, right? All right, so we have to save it. So confirm. Let's view it. All right, now let's see what this does. And I've never done this one before, so we'll see how accurate it is. It'll be interesting to see if it doesn't return accurate information. Kind of like when there's you got to go more advanced with your questioning. So let's see. Okay, so it looks like it pulled up diving events in maybe that area. Eric, can you tell us if that's are these events that looks like there's just more diving events, right? So probably not very accurate. Let's take a look on here. So you go to registration. Let's see what's up here. So it might be going to, oh, he raised his hand. I assume that's a good thing. So if it's got these links, it could be pulling other events as well, which is very interesting. It's still going.
It might
but
be
we'll stop it. We're gonna
pulling
do some other stuff.
scuba diving
Okay, now
versus Olympic diving.
let's start a new chat. So how do you start another chat with this GPT, right? Because it's, again, these conversations roll down into your conversation history. And we just go right here to Cal Diving again and click a new chat, just like as if it was the original ChatGPT and you're just starting a new conversation, except now we've got this customized GPT, right? Let's see what kind of training is offered. And this is looking like it'll be pretty accurate. Awesome. So a number of great use cases for this, right? First could be somebody calls into the front desk and you've got a new employee and they don't necessarily know the answer to all the questions around Cal Diving because they're new. Well, if you've got this set up, linking to the website, they can ask it and give the person an answer. Maybe they want follow-up information about an event. Well, you could use this to say, hey, draft me an email to follow up with a potential client, around the beginning diving courses, right? So write an email to a prospective new customer who is interested in beginner diving courses. So this is where we can now start to combine prompts that we've learned in prior webinars together into your GPTs. So it gets even more accurate and valuable because we're tied to specifically caldiving.org. Okay. And if we have any other people wanting to share examples, feel free to throw it in the just as like an open Q&A if you can't chat with any of the panelists. Okay, so that's a cool one. Let's stop here and let's go back into building another GPT. Okay, so we showed you how to use the create GPT functionality by chatting with it. And actually, one thing I want to show you is before we do that is let's see what it gave instructions for when you we talked to it. So it did say to use the URL like we'd asked. So the instructions are pretty good for this one. One thing you'll want to do when you create create a GPT this way is definitely pop into the configure and just make sure this sort of statement's accurate. So you're getting accurate answers, etc. Okay, just one thing I wanted to point out. All right, so let's create a new one. In this one, we're going to use the example of ourselves, and we're going to create an upper hand marketing GPT. Okay, so to do that, we'll just create I want to configure. Let's name the GPT. Give it a short description. Help upper hand team members get questions answered on all things upper hand marketing related. All right, so for instructions, I'm gonna go copy and paste one of the prompts I created for you guys, and then we'll walk through it real quick. Okay, so the 4 sort of steps I like to include in my prompts that I'm working with are first the personality. So here we're saying Up Marketing GPT is a highly specialized marketing expert. So we're combining some of the different capabilities around the other prompts we've used before. You can put in competitors, some of the people we compete with and others can be in there. Follow steps, so analyze the request, reference the PDFs when providing answers. In the knowledge base, I uploaded a bunch of files to be helpful. And with the response style, we put in a bunch of different bullet points around, communication style should match the voice of upper hand, and make sure when we're talking to a diving facility that let's build it the communication for a diving facility, not a lacrosse trainer. Okay, so some of the stuff is really customizable. You just sort of customize it to your business. Let's close that out. All right, now let's upload a file, and I've sort of created a file for us. We're going to pop in here and go to messaging. So I put in some messaging guides in here, so you can upload a lot of different file types, PDFs, docs, text files. I always like text files because you know for sure that the machine can read it, but really you can put anything in here you want. I'm just going to go ahead and put in a messaging guide for upper hand. To give everybody an example, it'll upload. Cool. You can upload a number of files. It's not just one. You could have dozens of files uploaded on here to basically provide knowledge to that GPT. Okay. Capabilities. So what is this? Some of this can make the GPT go faster, depending on what you turn on. So if you want it to be able to browse the web, obviously keep that checked. If you think you might use the GPT to create images, you would keep this checked, which it's a marketing GPT, so I'll go ahead and keep it intact. We don't really need the code interpreter. What this would be, if you did check it, would be the ability for this GPT to return code snippets back to you, which may be helpful for some marketing use cases. If you need widgets or embedded things, maybe you're trying to customize the HTML of an email. Might even want to create a separate GPT for that, but that's what the code interpreter does. I'm going to keep it turned off for now. Some of the things we're not going to cover today, but just to be aware of, is a little bit more advanced. So let's say you want to create a GPT that is called a calendar GPT, and you want to not only connect it to your calendar, but then you want to be able to schedule, personal events off your calendar. Well, you can do that with custom actions, where you can actually connect this to APIs. You can connect it to tools like Zapier. So that you could literally tell this GPT after you create something, okay, now send this in an email to, so-and-so, and it can use the API or Zapier to achieve that goal. Okay. Again, this starts to get it's more advanced. It's a little easier than using the coded API, but it is available. So if you have developers on your team, at your sports facility, I definitely know that exists. Additional settings. This is important to note. So if you don't want the conversation data in the GPT you're creating to essentially go to OpenAI to improve their models, you would just uncheck that box. So that way the data stays here. And now I'm just going to click save like we did before, and people with a link, confirm. All right, so now we've got this GPT, and it didn't give us an image profile, but we can always do that some other time. And it also didn't give us any examples of what we could put as our little conversation starters. But let's just go and say, what is the story behind Upper Hand? Okay, cool. It's going to know the story. Again, this is pulling from our messaging guide, which is awesome. Let's stop it. Let's ask it, what are 6 reasons Cal Diving, use caldiving.org, should consider a company like Upper Hand? Now, this is helpful. Now, why am I doing this? I'm not doing it from a sales perspective. I want to use it in a real way that you would use it at your sports facility. So I could see, in this case, Eric using this to say, hey, what are 6 reasons, a parent, of a 16-year-old or 14, whatever the ideal target audience is, would consider coming to train at Cal Diving, right? So you can use it in those ways to really help you and your team come up with, hey, what are some good messages for the month as a facility that we should start, promoting or pushing. So it can really help you guys plan, strategically on what you should be thinking about to really just save time and be much more effective and aligned in your messaging. So it's giving kind of some really good examples. We are configurable. So I feel good about this. Whereas if we would have done this before in ChatGPT without the uploaded knowledge, we might have gotten some answers that were some good, but some just sort of out there, or it doesn't really make sense too much for somebody. Okay. Now let's create an ad to promote I'll just say to promote Upper Hand on Facebook. You could also use this to create your social posts. So we could have said, hey, create a a post for Facebook or LinkedIn, whatever tools you're using on social, because it's got this marketing messaging guide. You could have asked it to create them for, hey, today's Tuesday, I need Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and it would pump those out for you, right? And you can always customize them, etc. But here's a post that it's giving. For some reason, ChatGPT loves to do emojis, some of which are good, some are not great. But man, awesome message, and it's using what we talked about up here, so it's kind of remembering what it had said, what we'd asked it from before, right? And again, we could go back, create a new chat if we wanted this way. Okay. Just pausing to see if we have any questions before I keep going. Okay, so a couple questions coming through. How do you redirect a bad search? Okay, so a bad search inside ChatGPT. That's actually a really good question. So let's just use the example. Let's go back to here where we had to create an email. So to edit or kind of change where you get bad direction, I go here. So you can edit a message or a prompt through a thread here. So we're in this one, diving training at Cal. So you click edit and you just change this. So instead of writing an email to prospective new customers interested in beginner diving courses, let's say in beginner diving courses for I don't know, let's just say a 10-year-old. I don't know if you offer that, but let's just say that 10-year-old athlete. Okay, and it's going to regenerate a new message using that prompt. And you can still see your old prompt with these little tags here. So you can go back, go one, and it shows you that original, which is really nice. That's an updated piece of functionality. Whereas before, if you edited it, hit enter, you'd sort of lose that prior prompt. And this is definitely catering that message to maybe a parent of a 10-year-old, which is good. It's saying still scuba, we're Olympic diving. Okay, so that's a great question. So let's say your GPT you created, for some reason, is really obsessed with, one particular, aspect of the business that may not be 100% accurate. So let's just go in here and edit it, right? So it's pulling from the website, and we can say, be focused on providing feedback around maybe Olympic diving. So that's something you could do, right? And again, you can always go back to that prompt that I'd shared in the presentation, where we would change, sort of what the personality is, right? So again, you guys know your businesses better than we do. So that's where you'd have to use this, prompt to really say, hey, we offer scuba, but only to these age groups, or we offer Olympic diving, but only these age groups. And then adding your website link as a part of that, which is in that original prompt, is only going to make the responses better and better. Okay. Another thing you can do if you're concerned that maybe the browsing of your website is not always the most accurate, something I actually did for the marketing side is you can export. So if your website's built on WordPress or Weebly, Wix, Squarespace, right, all the main web platforms, you can export all of your pages as text files and then put them into a PDF or into one text file, upload it, and then you'll have all the text for your entire website right there. Now, the downside of that is if you update your website and don't update the file, obviously you have a little bit of an issue in terms of updated events, et cetera. But there's a lot of ways you can work around that within here with respect to the prompting, okay? Okay, let's keep going here. All right, so what's the next one? I got a couple other fun ones. Let's go back and we're gonna create a blog GPT. We're already there. Okay, grab my prompt. So this here is going to be an SEO blog expert, and call it SEO blog expert. Provide expert SEO advice. Oh, it's fine. Just keep it short. Okay. We don't really need images for this. Web browsing probably will need that on, so let's keep it that way. And let's say a couple conversation starters. How can I improve the SEO on my landing page? And now in this case, with this prompt, right, we want to make sure we have like our URL in here. I'm just putting this prompt in so we can use it as an example and walk through some conversations, but we'll do landing page. And then let's say, what are 3 pieces of advice you would give to improve my website's SEO? All right, let's save it. You did see a message up here that was kind of orange in it, and I kind of went away pretty quick, but there are times where those will pop up. So many people are using OpenAI and ChatGPT that it does happen. If it does happen, give it a second, try to save it. In some cases, it's just the way it is. You just kind of have to refresh your browser. But just know that that's normal and not something to kind of freak out about. It's just when everybody in the world's on the server, it makes it pretty difficult to sometimes get through. All right, so let's try this out here. Let's just ask it, how can I improve my landing page? Hopefully it asks us what page. It's probably gonna give us some generic answers. Cool. Let's put this in. How can I improve my landing page at caldiving.org? Now, why is this GPT helpful? Well, before we would share prompt examples that you'd have to use, you'd have to go find the prompt, copy and paste it into a new ChatGPT chat, right? Whereas with GPTs now, you can save the most commonly used prompts that you love to use. You can save them as GPTs, so it just makes it that much easier to go in and use sort of like these different, they're like workers, right? It's almost like having staff people on hand. And if you have an SEO person, you have a marketing person, create a GPT that they can use, right, to empower their work and help them be more efficient. But you kind of see there it was taking a little bit of time, a little slower, but it's giving us an answer. So keyword optimization, start with pinpointing keywords, and it keeps going to scuba diving. So Eric, that's some good advice here for you on this is, it's specifically calling out scuba diving. So let's ask it, we do more Olympic diver, not scuba. How do we improve that? So when people are searching, they're finding us. So let's let it finish its answer and we'll type up a prompt while it's doing that. We offer Olympic diving. He may still offer scuba. I'm going to say not scuba. How do I improve my SEO to make it clear that we provide Olympic diving? There you go. Yeah, of course it's different. Okay, cool. Now it's giving us some different keywords, and it's using your website. So I don't know why I would be pulling scuba, but that would give me as a business owner kind of interest in exploring, well, why is that? Is there something about this that makes us think there's scuba? I don't see the word scuba in here. Could there be some backlink URLs that it's checking? That's certainly a possibility. But for anybody that's out there listening, that's a great example of how you can really use this stuff to improve your business and just get clearer. Okay. All right. So I gave some good examples. Let's keep going here. I want to show you one, create a sales cold email coach. So let's do another GPT. And we're going to put in another pre-made one here. So let's say your team, you've got staff or yourself, you're following up with folks regularly who reach out, maybe submit a lead form, etc. So we're just going to call this sales email coach. Assistant providing, I'll say assistant writing, sales emails to prospective customers at caldiving, only because we're not getting other examples. All right, so paste that in there. Let's take a look at the prompt. All right, you're an expert in writing cold email messages and critiquing my emails. So you could not only can you use this to write a new email, but maybe there's an old email that you've been using for years in MailChimp or whatever platform you use, copy and paste it in here. And it'll help you improve those particular emails that you've been sending for better, open rates, etc. Okay, so let's say write an email to a prospective client who's interested in our Olympic diving programs. All right, and you see it over here popping up as a conversation starter. Cool. Save this. All right, we're back here now. And let's just click that to get it started. Let's see what it says here. So this is great. So it's going to ask us what's the name of the person. Again, a perfect tool to create your own sales email templates or to create actual emails. If you've got staff people, they've been tasked with, hey, every day get out 10 emails, 15 emails, whatever it is, to leads and opportunities in your CRM. So we're just going to say it's Courtney here. Sorry to use your name, Courtney. So we'll go on. A great swimmer, I'm sure. You swim as fast as you run, you're probably pretty good. Can you describe a specific challenge or problem they're facing? So they're going to try to relate the value of the program. Man, what's a challenge, Courtney, you have with diving? She wants to improve her technique to win gold. 3, what is unique about your diving programs that addresses this challenge? You tell me. Let's see what it says when we ask the GPT to tell us. Now, one thing we could have added to the knowledge part of this GPT, knowing it asks us this, is we could have added all kinds of marketing documentation about Cal diving in this example. So that way, when we say tell me, it would actually pull from your content, and value statements, etc. So this is great. I love short emails when it comes to a cold email. And they're easy to read. They come across very genuine. This is a good email. So there you go. Now let's say maybe add a call to action for Courtney with a link to a program she might be interested in on caldiving.org. Let's see what it does there. I'm going to laugh if it pulls in scuba diving. Specialized training. But what's nice is whether that's right or wrong. Let's see what it is. Let's open it up. Oh, okay. It's giving you a suggested URL. So that's great. So it's given us the email, but now it's told us where to put that specific URL. So in this case, Eric's going to know where in his website he wants to drive Courtney's interest. And so he can copy and paste that in there. Cool. All right. I want to get to a couple more of my GPTs to give you guys some more examples. We've got some more fun ones. So let's keep going. Data analyst. We get this a lot from folks. How do I analyze data within ChatGPT? So let's create an analyst. Let me analyze data. Pretty generic. But again, these are some custom prompts. Again, we'll share prompts with folks afterwards. But in this example, it's going to be able to do some code, and I'll provide some analysis on particular data. I don't have a data set to use, but let's make a conversation starter. Create a visualization, so it can make up a visualization that highlights the value of Olympic diving training for an Olympic diver. Let's save it. All right, and then type that in. You could take any image you have and pop it in here, because you can attach to your chats. I click this, so you can add to that, right? One piece of caution with images, ChatGPT does not do a great job reading visuals. You'll find that if you give it an image of a bar chart or something, the feedback or insights it gives once you read through them actually sometimes won't make sense. It's very, very important to read what it's giving you, particularly when you submit like an image around data visualization. All right, so it's actually going to create a visualization here for us, telling us what the x-axis will represent. So this is just a great way if you have, maybe some registration data, some athlete data that you want to highlight in maybe a marketing campaign or an email, or maybe you're presenting to the team or parent. You can copy and paste that in here, attach it as a CSV file, then ask it to create a visualization for you that you can then use for that particular task or reason you're creating it. You can see here that it's actually coding for us. So in this case, we copy and paste this visualization into something that reads Python. But this is one way you can use a GPT to have your own data analyst in here. What if you just wanted to have somebody that knows a lot about business to help you? Something I think is always kind of cool. So there's this prompt that is fairly viral, a lot of people know about. Or Mosey, engaging business maverick GPT. So we'll go ahead and create this. Business maverick GPT. Oh, so maverick wrong. Want me to answer business questions, become a business expert. And we're going to paste that in here. Cool. Conversation starters. So what would be something we could ask this person? Something like, analyze my business model, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to put a conversation starter, but save it. Confirm. Now, this will be a fun one. Tell me about the business model of caldiving.org. See what it tells us. I don't know why it's creating an image. That's not good. Let's X that out. Let's change our question. Searching. Okay, that's better start. There we go. Cal diving. So again, when you do a prompt, I mean, sometimes it's not going to be right. So just stop it. Right. Don't waste the time. When did you launch? In July 2013? It's kind of fun having them on here so we know. We had a question, why Python on some of the code? Python mainly because it's kind of regarded as like one of the sort of primary code programming languages as it relates to data science and data related activities, very similar to something called R programming. But there's this ongoing debate about R and Python and which one's better. But okay, cool. It did that for us, and this business expert. And now let's ask it, how can I improve my business model at Cal Diving? So this prompt is using business insights from an Iranian, business expert, and you can ask it anything. Like I want to launch a new membership platform. What do I need to know? What are the things I need to think about for my business? All right, let's see here. Training programs. All right, cool. So what's great about this is now we could take this, we could dive back into some of these more specifically, right? So it's giving us this high level overview, but let's say we want to improve, like diversify our training programs. let's proceed with diversifying our training programs. Let's see what it says. I always like using the keyword proceed with language learning models. For some reason, it seems to be a good one. We'll pause after this one to see if there's any questions. I do want to share one more prompt on logo creation. So we'll go over a little bit. We always seem to do that. The logo one's kind of fun and helpful. So anybody needs a new image, so we'll create that here in a second. And thank you, Eric, again, for being a volunteer of your business. Sometimes it does take a while. For the sake of time, I may stop it to use everybody's time wisely. Okay, so you can keep going with that. But again, you've got a business guru. I mean, people pay tens of thousands of dollars to get business consulting advice from somebody, and you can create a GPT that is specifically catered to your business to be able to get quick questions answered, as an ownership team, as a general manager, staff team, etc. Okay, some of our last prompts. Let's do one for logos. Maybe you just want to create one for generating logos. So let's do that real quick. Save it. All right. I want to create a new logo for caldiving.org. Now, I will tell you, if you join the webinar next Thursday, Midjourney is light years ahead of DALL-E 3 as it relates to image generation, but DALL-E 3 is getting better and catching up slowly. So let's just say we want it to be minimalistic. I always like minimalistic logos. Oh, okay. It says I've reached usage limit. Okay, that's fine. So when that happens, they've started to limit. You can do 50 messages within a span of an hour, I think. So we're probably getting pretty close to that. We can switch out. We'll switch out from using GPT right now, and we'll just do a new chat in here to show you how that prompt would work for a logo. Put it in here. You can upload another logo. So if there's a logo you already have, maybe there's inspiration. You could upload that here to have it do it for you. I want to design a new logo for Cal Diving. Cool. All right, while this is going, I'm going to, any questions, pop them in here so we can include them in our Q&A. And it can be anything around ChatGPT, AI, Midjourney, anything we've covered in the GPT stuff. Feel free to throw that in here. All right, let's go. Oh, it's asking to upload a sketch. I don't have a sketch. We'll say the business name. Now, of course, if you want a really good one, you'd fill this out, say what colors, preferences, etc. But if you're just doing kind of some general, creative design, it's always nice, I think, to kind of see what it comes up with. Cool. So as it does that, let's not seeing a whole lot more questions in here. But while it does that, I'll stay on for another second so he can see these images, and just want to say thank you again for everybody joining. Again, we will be back next Thursday. Throw the date on here for you. December 14th at 1:30, and we will be creating images using Midjourney. And Midjourney, just so you can see it, is the #1 AI image generating company in the world. We will show different prompts on how to create logos, how to create marketing images, etc. You can see all the things that you can create on here. I mean, real people, etc. So we'll walk through how to do that on the next webinar. And there you go. So what you could do with this when you get an image is maybe you don't like it, say generate another one. Maybe you do like it and you want to change the colors. So you can sort of talk to it and it'll keep generating new concepts. Okay. Network error. So you just hit regenerate. All right. So with that, I'm going to pause, stop my screen share. And again, thank you everybody for joining, and I appreciate everybody's time.